Hello everyone, welcome back to the DMside. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are not a subscriber and you find value in this video, please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below. Any comments on anything that is said during the video, I would love to hear about them. And if you're a returning subscriber, thanks so much for coming back. We're at a solid 48 right now. I'd love to hit that 50 by the end of the month, and I really believe that we can do it. So let's get smashing of that subscribe button, hit that like button so other people can see the videos and we can just see where this journey takes us. We are currently working through the Waterdeep Dragonheist campaign through the 5e module that is set through Wizards of the Coast. It's going really, really well. We've been sitting on chapter 2 for quite a while now. We're going to recap exactly what the players did last week and talk about what's happening this week in a couple of days. Let's do it. So let's get into the recap. This week we started straight away with the Field Ward. Now there was rumors that there was going to be a gang war set up in the Field Ward, and it's not really monitored by the City Watch at all. The City Guard up on the walls kind of look down on it and monitor occasionally, but they were asked by Savra Bellabranta of the Order of the Gauntlet to go in there and show some force to make sure that Xanathar and these Zentaran guilds know that they can't just go around willy-nilly starting these gang wars essentially for their own gain. So when we got into the Field Ward, there was a massive crowd of people who had heard about the gang war coming, and it's a bit of a refugee sort of area, I guess you could call it. It's very low, sort of, not, I don't want to say scummy, but it's a very dirty, poorer area compared to the rest of Waterdeep. There's no plumbing there, just to give you an idea of like how low socio-economical sort of area it is. And so the people there had heard about the gang war coming, but they went, well, we want to protect what we just have. So they all kind of showed up in the hopes that they could stop it themselves. But that was a poor move because unfortunately there were two invisible bards running around who were causing a stir amongst the crowd, pushing people, shouting out profanity, shouting out accusations. And eventually the party did manage to dispel their invisibility, but it was too late. The riot had basically begun. And so all of a sudden you could see, the characters could see Zentaran coming in from one side, Xanathar coming in from the other side, hooded figures coming in to get their bloodthirsty killing on the way. But the players managed to set a fire to a stack of hay, persuade the crowd that the place was dangerous and you get out of here or they're all going to die, and they also had to scatter and run off in many directions. Now Jagged Jack managed to grapple one of the Zentaran thugs, but the Zentaran thug called out for help to the City Guard, who looked down, and at this point in the battle, he saw this is what he saw. He saw a civilian who was grappled by a small barbarian creature, a halfling. There was a magical spiritual weapon in the shape of a syringe hovering just by him. There was magical rain putting out the fire that they'd set, and then there was this giant tank man who was walking over about to knock out the Zentaran. But instead, they decided they were going to let him go because the City Guard had all turned with their crossbows drawn. The Zentaran thug ran away. Giorno, Dr. Smiles, and Jack legged it, and then the rest kind of stayed there, and eventually the City Guard, seeing that no one was hurt, there was a bit of a scuffle, turned around and went back on their guard. And so the characters got out alive. Then we went into downtime. Downtime is probably one of the best things that I've done so far because it was 2 weeks for the players to earn some money without spending literally 6 hours of game time earning money. They went pit fighting and they had tons of money off pit fighting. Pit fighting, you earn a lot of money. Hootie managed to do some more work for the Waterdeep Whisperer, so he got regular day pay. Damien went off and he was doing some research of his own. Watch went to the Temple of Tyr and he learnt more about just what it means to kind of have a god, and got to know Savra Bellabranta a bit more, which was really great, really good character development. Who else? Dr. Smiles, Giorno, and Jack, they went and saw Davil Starsong to give information about the killing of the elves because they believed that they had enough information, which they did in the end. He offered them full membership. They said no, except Jack. Jack said yes, secretly, so nobody actually knows that. They just agreed that they openly agreed that they would just do more work for them, but they don't want to be full members. However, secretly, Jack has agreed to a full membership. Then they were given a mission to deliver some potions of mind reading to a figure known as the Black Viper, which they all jumped on. Hootie was super excited about because he really wanted to get that scoop, that story about who this person is, because a lot of talk going around right now. And his competitor at the Waterdeep Wazoo, what's his name, Gaxley Rudderbust, he's been writing quite a few articles on the Black Viper. So Hootie wanted to get a bigger scoop so that way he could actually outright him, which is very exciting. And finally, I did give another mission to Hootie. It's actually a Lords of the Alliance mission. It's about finding a gentleman by the name of Harko Swanhold, who is an ex-adventurer who was banished from the city 3 years ago. Now, I know it's a Lords of the Alliance mission, but I really thought about it and went, I want to kind of pick and choose these other missions that they can't really do. And if I can squeeze it in and make it relevant, then I'll give it off to the players regardless of their faction. So the Harpers, they really do work in the shadows, but they also want to keep this idea of balanced power around. And so I decided that this ex-adventurer coming into Waterdeep is going to disrupt the balance of power in Waterdeep if he's let loose. And so Hootie's been asked to secretly dispose of him, which he did a bit of investigating on, but they didn't really lead anywhere just yet. But we'll get onto that. So after all of that, the very big thing that really happened in the night is the City of the Dead. I was very happy with how this session went. They spent 8 nights watching each night for skeletons arriving, which is what they were told of. And on the 8th night, it happened. Zombies and skeletons started to rise up, and from a great mausoleum up on the hill, this purple light was pulsing, and they started to fight off the zombies and the skeletons, putting them down one by one. They were very weak, very manageable, but then all of a sudden, every time it came around a full turn and finish, this purple light from this mausoleum, this crypt, as crawling up from the ground, more zombies, more skeletons. So the party figured, we've got to get in there and stop whatever is doing that. That must be where the necromancer is. Busting down the door as they're being chased behind by skeletons and zombies, they see, standing far deep down into the crypt, this floating purple crystal that is emanating with necrotic magic, and one much larger zombie holding a great axe stands at the ready guarding it, which was amazing because for our characters, our actual players, during the battle they realized that this was no normal zombie. This zombie was using a great axe for one, and also it could use reckless. This was the dead, zombified body of an ex-barbarian who was played 5 years ago from another player in the group who no longer plays with us. But the best part is that his name was Bangor the Barbarian, and he was buried. My character, buried him in the City of the Dead in Waterdeep 5 years ago when we very first started playing the game. He died from ridiculous reasons of his own making. He killed someone or hurt someone and got taken by the guards and just made fun of everyone, and then it was a whole nother story. But the point is, it was really fun because everyone just went, wow, that's him. He's here now. He's a zombie. There's like a finish to this. I mean, he was dead, but there's just more to his story, which was just really, really cool. So they managed to break the crystal, and Jack broke it. And the last thing he saw before breaking it, he saw Nilhor, the Mind Flare, grabbing onto the back of the head of this human necromancer, forcing him to cast his magic and summon these creatures. So Nilhor will eventually come back into the fray, and they'll have to deal with him. But it just shows that he's still around, he's still doing things. So I really liked that. Finally, they went to the Godcatcher, the giant Godcatcher statue. That's where they're going to meet the Black Viper to deliver the potions. They got there and waited and waited and waited. Hours went by until just after midnight, when a carriage pulled up, pulling along as a female got out and showed inside the carriage the gold that she had ready for them for the potions that they had picked up to deliver. Within this moment, luckily, 3 of the characters who I did not expect, I just didn't expect they'd all roll over 20 for their perception check, saw this half-tailed red tiefling, Hootie's assassin, leaping down next to the Black Viper, ready to strike. He rolled a terrible initiative. An assassin who rolls the lowest initiative is not really an assassin anymore. He got absolutely wailed on, but his whole plan was there because he was hired by the Castellantis to kill the Black Viper, because the Black Viper has been stealing from nobles and including them. And they need the money. I mean, they're trying to buy back their kids' souls, for Christ's sake. So can you stop stealing out their money, please, Black Viper? But it was a good way. I wanted it to be a really fun way for Hooty to see how strong the assassin was, because pretty much, if he'd gone first and hit the Black Viper with 2 hits, both critical hits, most likely would have completely outright killed her, which I didn't want. She's a fun character to play and I wanted her to survive, but I was fully prepared for her to die, to show Hooty that this guy is not someone to be messing around with. But instead it was the other way around. He rolled the lowest initiative, he didn't get any of his crits, he didn't even get a hit, he got absolutely wailed on and decided, I need to get out of here, so he jumped up onto the wagon, the top of the carriage, sorry, that had the gold in it still, threw a dagger at the horse, it took it like a d4 damage, and then it panicked and dashed away as he held onto the top of the carriage. And they all went, that's our money. The Black Viper then went over to Jagged Jack, pulled the potions that she technically paid for from his hands and just started to absolutely leg it. Hooty ran after her. He confronted her and said, I need a quote. I don't want this person writing things about you anymore. It's referring to Gaxley Rudderbust. And she pretty much said, no, I want things to be written about me because I want those nobles to know that I could get them at any point. And then she vanished off into the night. While Giorno was dashing after the carriage, the monk that he is caught up, got into the carriage, got the gold, and then he barrel rolled out basically as the half-tailed red tiefling assassin leapt off and rolled his double dashed into a set of streets and rolled a hide check and vanished from view. Barely getting away with like 10 hit points left, just managed. It was insane. But that image of him just like jumping up into the carriage, throwing the dagger into a horse, and as it just screams and just starts dragging them off. Awesome, awesome stuff. We all had really good fun with it. So that's the recap. That's everything that they did. That's everything that has been presented to them. It's been that was an exciting session. I didn't make the mistake of giving them time anymore. I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and I said, nope, all right, this is what's happening next. You know, do you have anything you would like to do that isn't menial tasks? No, great. We fast forward to this point. You spend the rest of the day doing whatever it is that you need to do to prepare. Here we are at the gates of hell, at the gates of the mansion, at the city of the dead. We're standing here at the God Catcher, this giant statue that protects the city. We got there, and that was the main point, and it really, really helped. So that's the recap. All right, so what are we going to be doing this week? So this week, what I'm expecting to happen is that they're going to deal with Harko Swornhold. Hooty really wants to find this ex-adventurer and finish his mission. So I'm going to place him into the story. They're going to have the chance of running into him. I'm not quite sure where it's going to be. He's hired some Kenku to help him out. So there's a lot of thinking that needs to go into where this fight will come. I actually want him to run into Hooty in the streets so that way they kind of meet. And I am hoping that maybe they'll trail him to a warehouse that he's hiding in, or maybe into the sewers. But the sewers are kind of run by the Zentarum, or Xanathar's guild, sorry. So perhaps we'll go into more of a warehouse, because he's trying to make connections with the Zentarum, actually. So maybe an old abandoned Zentarum warehouse would be very good. As well as, well, actually, one thing I did forget to say is that they have the money for the Trollskull Manor refurbishment. So we get another 2 weeks downtime while the refurbishments are done. And then after that, we just have a huge grand opening. The players are going to send me a list of who they're inviting to the Trollskull Manor for their big pub opening, as well as I will be splashing in some people from around the area, just some other commoners, some people from the dock wards that Giorno and Jagged Jack know. There's going to be a lot of, I'm going to try and send some entertainers perhaps from the Sea Maiden Fair, but we'll see if they'll allow them in. And then on top of that, we're actually going to have Emek. Now, if you haven't read the book at all, which is totally fine, Emek runs a pub not too far from where they are. And he hasn't been worried about it because it's still run down. But once it's all refurbished and nice, he's going to be scoping out this place and going, this could be problem. And he's very, very jealous of other places looking better than his. He wants his place to be the best, but he doesn't really know how to run the pub very well. And so he's actually going to try and sabotage them. He's going to hire a group of were-rats for 50 gold to kind of just try and get jobs there to make the place not as great. 2, they're gonna try and like carve mouse holes into it instead of rat infestation. He's gonna tip off the Waterdeep Wazoo that it's infested with rats. And then to an extent, if the characters don't figure it out that it's him and they don't stop this from happening, he's actually going to suggest to some guild members, quite prominent ones, that they are actually a front for the secret were-rat group, and that's actually being run by them. And by the time we get to that point, if they haven't solved all the other issues, it's going to look as if though they are actually a guild, an illegal thieves guild that is run primarily by these were-rats, and then the whole place is going to get shut down. Now, I don't think it will get shut down. I think they'll talk their way out of it at the very least, should it get to that level. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they go about stopping this, because it could be quite secretive. So that's what we're dealing with this coming Sunday. After this Sunday, depending on how they do with everything, we will be moving on to Chapter 3 with a big fireball explosion. So, thank you very much everyone for watching this week's session, listening to how last week's session went. I hope that you are enjoying just where the story is going, and I hope that it's giving you some ideas for your campaign. Comment down below any thoughts that you have on the video, and I will see you next week.